Hi, I'm Anna Runkle, also known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy, and this is the 6th video in my series on resilience, where I'm focusing not only on the obstacles to recovery from childhood PTSD, but the strengths that we can develop in order to heal. And the obstacle I want to talk about today is confusion. This is one of those side effects of early trauma that gets woven into your whole way of thinking and being, so much that it can be hard to see. And I'm going to tell you how it gets there, why it's so serious, and I'll talk about the particular strength you'll need to get out of confusion and into clarity. So confusion plays a big role in why those of us with childhood PTSD struggle so often to perceive reality accurately. We get broadsided sometimes by things we should have been able to see coming from a mile away. And this is partly because our ability to process what's happening around us and respond to it appropriately is compromised a little, because that can get damaged by early trauma. But even worse, a lot of us got programmed as kids to second guess what was clearly happening right in front of us, or to us, right? Maybe we were being abused, or one of our parents was drunk a lot of the time and not coming home at night, or adults were doing things that were illegal. And it's sad, but kids will play along very easily with hiding this stuff from the world because from a very early age, we instinctively know we could be taken away from our parents, and we could be judged or excluded by our friends because of what's happening. And we have this strong drive not to let any of this happen. And that drive to preserve the status quo is so strong that we can forget what is the lie and what is actually true. And this is a great survival strategy when you're in a chaotic home and you're small, but then it carries into adulthood and we find ourselves with these giant holes in our clarity about what's really going on around us. You know, is my jealousy about my partner hanging out with an ex appropriate or crazy? Or is this conflict with my coworkers just me being difficult, or are they actually picking on me? When you have childhood PTSD, this stuff is totally confusing. You didn't get taught this at home. Plus, you're dealing with extra strong emotions, and sometimes they cloud the picture. And you're in the habit of second-guessing your reasoning processes. You're thinking, it seems like something isn't right here, but it's probably just me. So we live in confusion. And sadly, this leads to the kind of problems that caused us so much trouble in the first place. We feel ashamed and guilty, and even though we're not always sure why, we get back into hiding what's going on from other people, and sometimes even from ourselves. And that is a coping mechanism. It can get us through a hard time, but in the long run, it gives us a very high tolerance for crap, for unhappiness, for bad behavior in ourselves or in others. We get vague. We create cover stories to explain problems. We compartmentalize it. And the longer we do these things, the deeper the confusion works its way into our consciousness. So this is how we seemingly attract people who mistreat us. They treat us a little bit badly, and if we stick around and we assume it's just us and we keep everything looking good from the outside, they know they're free to ratchet it up, to mistreat us more. And it's the same thing with people who don't really mistreat us, but who let us down, who neglect us. They just act like themselves. They give very little, and if we're still around the next day telling ourselves that we're just being oversensitive, they get the signal that it's okay to neglect us and dump their responsibilities on us even more. So this is important. We don't attract them per se. We put up with them. And we don't leave because we're never sure if the hurt and disappointment that we feel is legitimate. Or we know they're mistreating us and we latch onto this idea that they should change. And that may be so, maybe they should change, but it doesn't mean they're going to change. And what do we do when they don't change? Not even a little bit? We go back to, maybe it's just me. But here's the really hard part about confusion. Sometimes when we're feeling mistreated, it is just us. It is. Sometimes it's just us. And childhood PTSD can make us really sensitive. We get triggered by some ordinary thing and our emotions go way out of the park. And sometimes we are unreasonable. And sometimes we're the ones who are neglectful or even hurtful or abusive even. Or we're in denial that something we did was wrong. If we're ever going to be functional and happy, we're going to have to develop the strength of discernment. Discernment means good judgment. It means being able to tell good from bad, right from wrong. When is it just me, or when should I get the heck away from someone? And there are two things we have to do to develop our discernment. One is to tell the truth. You've got to be honest with yourself. And when you're confused by something, you've got to say what's confusing and ask questions. Like, have you ever been out with someone and you thought maybe it was a date, but you didn't know? Or you were invited to a restaurant, but you were nervous the whole time because you didn't know if you were expected to pay for your half of it or if they were treating you. Has this kind of ambiguous situation shown up for you over and over again? Or have you ever found yourself flirting with someone, but you knew that it was inappropriate, but you were afraid if you said something, it would ruin the moment? You know what you do? You just say out loud what's going on, or you ask. You say, this is weird. It feels kind of like things are getting a bit flirty here. Or you can ask, hey, when you invited me out, were you planning to treat, or should I plan to pay for myself? Or you can say, I'd love to go to dinner, and I hope you won't mind my asking, is this a date? It feels so embarrassing to ask the question or state the obvious, but you know what's so great about it? No more confusion. Whatever the situation is can be made clear to you, and you can proceed accordingly. How many times did you hide your feelings and not ask the question, or put up with crap and assume it was just you? And I just want you to think about this. If you were ever in a relationship where things turned out not to be what you thought, would it have changed things if you had said the truth of what you were noticing when you first noticed it? Saying the truth can really kill the romance sometimes, but when you're in a bad situation, that's what you want. You don't want a big delusion of romance, because if truth ruins everything, something was already seriously not right. And speaking up early is also how you can clear up those piney relationships where you're pining away for someone who's very happy to be just friends. It's embarrassing to get rejected, but it's so much better to have it happen early and get it over with than to build your life around some unavailable person who just basks in your unconfessed devotion to them year after year. Okay, so this is what I mean by you having to be honest. The second thing you'll need to develop discernment is a process of self-reflection. And this is stuff that I teach in my Healing Childhood PTSD course and in my dating course. And if you like, you can check those out in the links below. But when you're working on this, it really helps if you've got at least one person to whom you can pour out your heart and who you can trust to be both kind and real with you about what they see from the outside, and supportive of you taking steps toward doing things in a better way. And this isn't always something we can get from friends because they're either too hard on us or they're too easy on us, and either way, it's not really helpful. But the bottom line is, no matter what other people did to cause confusion, the best thing to do is to focus on the part that we can change. Where was our discernment not so good? How could we build a workaround to alert us when that starts happening in the future? That's a lot of what I do with my coaching clients, for example, help them get out of the blame game and just see what can be changed and healed right now going forward. So yeah, sometimes to get out of confusion, we need a reality check. We do that by speaking up, asking questions, or getting input from someone we trust. And that's how we develop discernment. And discernment is how we come to have clarity. Now, have you reached clarity on something that used to confuse you? Tell us about it in the comments section. I love what's happening in this community with members talking honestly about what it's like to have childhood PTSD and sharing what works and supporting each other. I've got 3 more videos on resilience in the next few weeks, so if you want to hear what those are about, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to learn more about my courses or the coaching, click on the links below or go to my website at crappychildhoodfairy.com. And I will see you next week.